Is Infinity Pool any relation to Infinity War or Infinity Train? We'll answer that in today's video. What's up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. I watched Infinity Pool, and I had to pull my brain together for this video. We're going to talk about it. Is it worth watching in the theater? Is Mia Gothing? Let's do it. So James and his wife are enjoying an all-inclusive beach vacation on this fictional island of La Tolqa. Sure. When a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. This movie, and I don't even have to look, is rated R for graphic violence, disturbing material, strong sexual content, graphic nudity, drug use, and language. If you want to know what exactly is it, go to IMDb and look at the rating and look at the specifics under sex and nudity. It describes it in full detail. I don't like, why is this on here like that? This film stars Cleopatra Coleman, Alexander Skarsgård, Mia Goth. I was seeing people on Twitter saying, Skarsgård is so crazy, what a wild performance. And we get 45 minutes into this movie, I'm like, what are they talking about? He's very subdued. He's playing a subtle character. Oh. Brandon Cronenberg directed Possessor, a movie that was not necessarily an audience-accessible film, but it is one that had some very interesting things to it, and I think his style is really good. I understand. I've seen the criticism of some people saying he utilizes color in a way that doesn't necessarily enhance the story as a whole, but I like what he does, especially with the camera. There is a shot in the midst of the opening of this film, of Infinity Pool, and I'm like, That's what I like to see, man. That's why I go and watch a movie on the big screen. Does it add anything to this film specifically? I would say yes. There's a lot at play with Infinity Pool. So much to the point where I don't want to dive into what it actually becomes about, but I will give you some examples of what this movie is trying to do, trying to accomplish. A similar message as a couple of projects we got last year in The White Lotus, in The Menu, in Triangle of Sadness that just got an Oscar nomination. My favorite of those, well, White Lotus was incredible, but I also love The Menu. Those are my two favorites. Except Infinity Pool is playing it much less as, oh, this is either a metaphor or we're being subtle. This movie is not subtle. This movie is in no way trying to hide things from you. It's very obvious what it is trying to be, even though there will be some confusion as to how everything actually plays out, because there's one question that we're asking towards the end of the film. And I guess one question that I can bring up right now that won't necessarily spoil things, and I'll be vague about this question. For those of you that's seen the movie, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. What does it mean to be human? The way they go about this in the movie, I thought was the most intriguing part. You're looking at Skarsgård's character, and I'm thinking to myself, I like the way they're doing this because we just don't know. We're in the dark. And they even asked that question at one point in the movie to Alexander Skarsgård. He begins to think, he's like, oh, okay, well, is it, oh boy. But back to the whole Triangle of Sadness thing, how society treats the rich, how they're able to do things, sometimes get away with things that other people normally would not get away with, but there's this sci-fi twist in this film to where something is happening, questions are asked, but then people begin to settle into this weird reality, this somewhat obnoxious and ridiculous concept that comes about, but it was interesting. It's a cool concept. If you're a sci-fi nut, you're going to see this and you're going to go, this raises so many questions. Why are they doing what they're doing? Still don't totally have the answer of why this group is doing what they're doing, but again, it's the idea of them being able to do it, get away with it, not face full repercussions for their actions in terms of the law, but what they're dealing with in here, I think, is the important theme of this film, especially when you look at our main character of James and what James is going through. It is truly fascinating. He comes to this island with his wife, a wife who doesn't necessarily treat him all that great. He just kind of sits there and takes it. He meets Gabby, who is in love with this man and what he does. He is a writer. She has read this book. She's an actor. She and her rich husband, they're like, hey, join us on this expedition out of bounds, outside of the boundaries of where we are supposed to be, and that's probably not the best idea. That's how our first tragedy occurs, and that is when our madness begins. That's when you get this spin on what this concept already was, but it takes it out of the box. And I love the fact that this movie always kept me on my toes. It also has the perfect title. You can't have... We often don't talk about how good the title of a movie is. And, halfway through I'm thinking, what's the point of this title? Then you realize what it actually means, what the first word stands for, what the second word stands for, that final shot in the film. I'm going, Dad, this is one of the better titles I've seen in a long time. It's a weird positive, but it's a positive. You know what? The first reactions, they were right. Skarsgård is giving an outlandish, crazy, wild performance as we get further into the film. There's one scene where he's asked to do a lot and fill up the entirety of the screen, and he does an incredible job. Mia Goth. You see that clip online, you're going, hey, this is either going to be good or bad, but out of context, I can understand now why it kind of looked that way. But in the midst of the movie, I'm going, yes, this fits her character to a T. This fits the wild nature of what this movie's trying to deliver to us. The pacing, it gets really rampant and fast-paced. The tone it's a little all over the place at times. That's one thing I will say about Infinity Pool. It didn't quite have everything together in the moments that it needed to have everything together. And the movie gets so wild towards the end to where you're starting to ask yourself, is Infinity Pool trying to do too much? And does the lack of subtlety come back to haunt it at the end of the day? That's what I'll give some of these other projects that's dealing with the rich and how they're able to maneuver around certain things. Is there's a lot more subtlety in those movies. There's a ton of subtlety in Triangle of Sadness. With Infinity Pool, I guess that is the case for the first act. You're getting to know this world and these characters and what everything stands for, and then it gets wild, and I mean wild. And Cronenberg, that's what we know from the Cronenberg lineage, right? But this movie specifically, I don't know if that's going to work for everyone who's watching. There are impressive moments with the ending and kind of where they decided to take these characters. I did feel like I needed just a bit more to feel that satisfaction necessary to walk out of this movie going, wow, man, that was an experience. I think it lacks a few of those ingredients. And again, the story, unexpected, keeps you on the edge of your seat. Maybe just a few more scenes learning about these characters, and it could have elevated this to another level. But all in all, Infinity Pool was a good experience, a weird experience, a crazy experience. It's not going to be for everyone, especially with that rating, but I need to know your thoughts down below. Today's question is, what is your favorite Mia Goth performance? She's been in quite a few movies now. I'm still on board the Pearl Train last year. I think she should have been looked at for like an Oscar nomination, but let's get to the rating. Infinity Pool has all the ingredients necessary to create a unique horror experience. The story is somewhat uneven, but the authenticity of the film makes it worth watching, and because of that, I'm going a 73% with my score. I think this is a good horror sci-fi experience. It's crazy, but it does work, even though I do think it could have taken it up a notch with a few adjustments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll be seeing you very soon.